Yep.
Yes,
Huh?
indeed. They are hidden
In Germany,
in
we don't
every
have
crevice.
these beliefs.
What did you say, Kirsten?
Germany, we don't have these beliefs that we can't do stuff, you know, we're right on top.
Germany, you don't really.
As you know.
Oh,
As you
and
know.
here we have Ireland being represented now. And who is this? This is somebody's telephone number. Oh, this might be Teresa, if she's using her phone.
Speaking of phones, Mary, I'm going to toggle to my phone so my screen might freeze for a moment, but I'll be right back.
Okay. How is everyone? Okay, I can hear, but also in waiting room. Oh, it doesn't show that you're in the waiting room. Okay, here we go. Oh no, that's Stacy. Okay, we have California online now. Hi, Stacy.
Good morning.
You have a new hairdo.
Not really.
No?
It's just I woke up late.
Oh,
It's early here, sort of.
This is how you wake up? Wow.
Well, no, I normally wake up at 6. Today I woke up at 7, but there's a lot that goes into those 2 hours before the meeting. And not on me, on the house. You know, you ladies know.
So Teresa is saying that she can hear us, but we can't see her, and she is apologizing for that. So absolutely. Oh, there you are.
Oh, there she is. She's back.
All right. We'll take you however we can get you. So it is, let me just, it's 6:05. We have many more women signed up for this workshop with Heather, but because I don't want to run overtime, I am going to go ahead and get started with this and just accept people as they come. And as always, the recording will go out on Monday. As soon as I possibly can get it out on Monday, I'll have it all in your inboxes just in case you want to hear it. Hear what Heather has to share with us again. And I met, just to let you know, that I met Heather not too long ago. This is like a new relationship for me, but I was so blown away by what she had to say in the presentation that I had watched of hers, that I felt as though you women, as well as myself, could absolutely absorb and connect the message that she has, and about simplifying things to amplify your message, both in your life, both in your personal life and in your professional life. That I felt that she was like a really great resource for us to look to in the expertise that she has. And she's got a fabulous presentation all ready for you to go. She would prefer to take questions at the end. If you want to stick questions in the chat, then please go ahead and do so. If you really feel totally compelled to interrupt her and ask a question, then certainly you can do that. But we will absolutely leave time at the end to take questions as well. So I'm going to let Heather run with it because she's got a great presentation planned.
Well, thank you, Miss Mary. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to do a little presentation today. So can everyone see the slide? It's called Simplify to Amplify. Fantastic. Okay, good. We will go ahead and get started. Whoops. Okay. My mouse is out of control. There we go. So you are in the right place this morning, this afternoon, wherever you were calling in from, if you want to discover how to amplify your voice, your value, and your action, so you can show up boldly in your own life and business unapologetically. So today we'll discover, we're going to jam pack this session. There's a lot of information in here. We're going to discover how to stop feeling guilty for not being able to do it all, right? How to create bulletproof confidence no matter what, how crucial your daily routine is, and how to identify your ideal client. Each one of those we could turn into a month-long session. So again, if you need to grab a pen and a paper, I highly recommend you do this. Mary will be recording the session as well, but there's gonna be lots of little nuggets in here we're gonna unpack. So buckle your seatbelts, ladies. So I always wanna remind people that when writing the story of your life, don't let anyone else hold the pen. And the reason I say this is because I want you to keep an open mind and realize that you are the one that controls everything in your life. Now, I will preface that by saying you can't control accidents, you can't control cancer, those kinds of things. But my point is that you have a great amount of control, more than you think you do in your life. So you hold the pen and you get started on it, right? So I want to give you a little brief introduction of who I am and why I am coming to you today. My name is Heather Morrison, and I'm a mindset mentor and a confidence crusader. I'm an author and a coach, and I created the Mindset Reset, the Bold Business Breakthrough, and Audacious Amplification. And the name of my company is Bold Beyond Belief. So a little background on me. In my business life, this was me. I was the superhero. I was working in high-tech marketing. I was, 1% of the female population, right? High-tech marketing is predominantly male-oriented. So I never walked into a room full of guys and thought, oh, I'm the only woman here. I always thought, we got stuff to do. Let's get to it. But in my personal life, I was a doormat. Horrible, terrible relationships. And I kept trying to figure out, why is this happening to me? And so through my journey of figuring that out, I discovered there's a lot of other women that were going through my journey as well. And not only was that because when I made the switch to entrepreneur, I didn't have that business environment, that corporate environment to hide behind anymore. I was my own product. I was my own HR and marketing and technical departments. So all of a sudden that doormat mentality creeped over to my business. So I really had to get to work to figure out why this was happening and how I can stop it. So that's how Bold Beyond Belief was born. So first, we're going to talk about letting go of doing it all. So how many people feel like they are just, hurried little hamsters in their hamster wheel every day, trying to get it done, make their big, huge list, and they can never get it all done, ever, right? So we're going to talk about how this shows up. You're just so busy all the time. And it's interesting how many women I talk to, and I, hi, how you doing? Having a little small talk. I'm so busy. I'm so crazy. And I think, well, you need to talk to your scheduler. I think that's you, right? You're doing this to yourself, right? So we're going to talk about how to stop that. Okay. You feel stressed or sad or resentful, right? How many times in your life you're going through life and you're like, forget it, I'll just do it myself, or I can't believe I have to do this again, or I can never get my stuff done. Everybody else's stuff is getting done but mine. Okay, we're going to talk about how to switch that a little bit. And then you feel like all you do is give, and others just take. Okay. So the reason I title these slides Choice is it goes back to that original quote. You have a choice in your life as to whether or not you are just so busy all the time, right? And I know it doesn't feel that way. I know it feels like there's so many people pulling at your strings to get you to do stuff. You feel like, because you're a mom and you're a business owner and you're, a wife and you're a daughter, that you're pulled in so many different directions. But there is a way where you can do it all, and that's by not doing it all. And by that, I mean, in order to do the right things, you have to stop doing the wrong things. And that's why the title of this presentation is Simplify to Amplify, okay? Because the reality is you're not going to be able to do all the things. You're just not. But you really have to ask yourself if those things that you're trying to do are that important, right? And that goes back to core values. We're going to talk about that as well. So you'll notice that these slides are written out in a way that these couple of bullet points are how it shows up in your life, right? And how we're going to stop showing up in your life. And then at the bottom, there's that little turquoise box, little teal box with a little screwdriver and a wrench on it. That's your toolbox. These are little things that you can stick in your tool belt today to prevent these things from happening. Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's see how this is going to happen. Okay, so stop putting things in your calendar that you do out of a sense of guilt or obligation. So how many of you have things that are in your calendar that every time they pop up, you think, oh, I really don't want to go do that? Ask yourself, why are they in your calendar then? And a lot of times they're in your calendar because you feel guilty if you don't do those things, or you have a sense of obligation. You volunteered for the PTO meeting 3 years ago and you don't know how to back out of it, right? You go to 14 networking meetings and you can't bring yourself to go back and say, I can't go to these meetings anymore. Okay. So the little tool at the bottom is called calendar clearing. So what I encourage everybody to do is to look at your calendar this week and to take a highlighter pen, however you do this, whether you do this on the computer, whether you do this on a piece of paper, look at your schedule and figure out those things that are no longer serving you. Okay. And those things that are no longer helping you get to the goal that you wrote down on January 1st, right? Those resolutions, or on your vision board, or in your Trello board, or your Pinterest board. We've all got those goals and those dreams. So if you're going to a networking meeting or a PTO meeting or a board meeting or other things that are no longer serving you, those are things that need to go from your calendar. Okay, we need to do a calendar clearing. So the way that looks is if you go back to the people that originally asked you to be in those meetings in the first place, or on the board or in the PTO meeting, whatever, and you simply explain to them, I really appreciate you asking me to be a part of XYZ. Unfortunately, it's not going to fit in my calendar anymore, but I appreciate you offering to let me be a part of this in the first place, but I won't be here at next week's meeting. And that's it. You don't offer them an explanation as to, I'm so busy, I don't have time for this anymore. It just doesn't serve you anymore, is the reality, right? It's the truth. And trust me, I know from years and years and years of volunteering and being in networking meetings and being on boards, that there's that feeling of, if I don't do it, no one else will. I promise you that when you step back from that, they will find someone that will do it. And oftentimes, for example, I was the president of a networking group for 5 years. And I stepped back and I thought, this doesn't really serve my needs anymore. This doesn't help me get to the direction of where I want to go. And I stepped down, and the girl that stepped up was phenomenal for the job, but she never stepped up because she thought, oh, well, Heather's doing it, so we'll just let her continue to do it, right? So if you allow others to step into their zone of genius, oftentimes you're serving the group so much better than you being there in that position. So look at your calendar this week, look at those things that are out of guilt or obligation, and stop doing those things anymore. Okay. Number two, if you don't do it, someone else will. We talked a little bit about that.
Message. That's a
right.
Great message.
And I talk a million miles a minute. So Mary, please interrupt me if you've got things to say.
I just, sometimes I just want people to like pause and take things in. That was a great message. That in what you're saying is that just because you're taking a step back does not mean that the world is going to stop and that everything is going to collapse. That actually you might be doing somebody else a favor and letting their light shine. So that, ladies, like that's uber a super message. So thank you. I just wanted to stop and take a breath and sink that in and highlight that.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you're modeling that behavior for other people as well, right? So I was part of another networking group. Do you see the trend? I belong to all of them. I was part of another networking group, and I said that, this is no longer serving me, and I'm going to go ahead and bow out of this, but I appreciate you having me here, and I'd appreciate the opportunity to come back in the future. And by me standing firm on my boundaries, because they asked a couple of times, please come back, and me standing firm on my boundaries, there was a gal that had come up to me weeks later and said, I want you to know that by you doing that, you gave me the strength to leave too, because that group wasn't serving her either, right? So you're modeling this behavior not only for your clients, you're modeling this for your children, for your spouse, that you have boundaries and it's okay to have those and to stand in those. And we'll talk about boundaries a little bit later. That's my favorite topic in the world. So if you don't do it, someone else will. The little tool at the bottom to counteract this is get perspective and check your ego. You are amazing, but you have talents that can serve in other areas. Right? Check your ego and realize that someone else could probably bring the cupcakes to the PTO meeting, right? That someone else might be as good as you are at being the president. Great. They'll bring new energy into the group and they'll have a different perspective, right? So get perspective and check your ego. That's a tough one. And I want to tell you, with all of this, give yourself grace. This is a process, right? This is going to take a little bit of practice. So number 2, you feel stressed, sad, or resentful. Okay. You're choosing to be, and again, there's that word choice. You're choosing to be everything to everyone. And now you're resenting that choice. And I call this martyr mommy. Okay. So in relationship with children, or in a relationship with a spouse, or your clients, or your boss, or whatever your scenario is, we take on all of these things, especially as women, because we are natural born caretakers. And then as we continue to do those things through our life, we're resentful about it, right? I don't want to bring the cupcakes anymore. Then why did you say that you were going to? Mm-hmm. Right? And if you don't speak out about these things and don't tell people where you're coming from and how you're feeling, and this was a hard pill for me to swallow, you don't have a right to be mad about it. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. Because if you're not, because they're operating under status quo. Well, she must not mind. She keeps doing it. I guess if she minded, she'd tell us, right? No, we don't. As women, we just sit and we suffer silently. I'll just do it. Forget it. I'll just do it again. Stop doing that. You're allowed to say, I'm done. I am done. And we're going to talk a little bit later about how to say you're done, mean you're done, and use that as a teaching opportunity. Okay. But this week, I really encourage you to start looking at things that you're doing in your life that you're really resentful for, and ask yourself, who do you have to blame for that? This whole program revolves around personal responsibility. Okay. Who do you have to blame for that? Yeah. I have a 12-year-old son. It doesn't matter if you're 12 or 20 or 85. It's that personal responsibility, and ask how much of a role you're playing in that. Okay. As you find yourself driving to one more meeting, as you find yourself unloading the dishwasher one more time, as you find yourself doing something for your client when you know they should be doing it for themselves, have you told that person you don't want to do it anymore? Stop being a martyr. So the little tool that can fix this is determine your needs first. And I know this is gaining more traction, I think, but for a long time, we were taught that it was selfish for us to determine our needs first. Mm-hmm. This is like putting on your oxygen mask before you put on your child's oxygen mask. If your needs aren't met, then how can you take care of anyone else, right? Determine your needs first. And I'm not saying take care of those to the detriment and the exclusion of everyone else, but figure out what your needs are first. Put those on your calendar first, okay? And we're gonna talk a little bit about how to do that. So ask yourself, what would happen if you didn't? If you didn't show up to that networking meeting, would someone else do it, right? If you didn't continue to do your work for your client and they actually had to do it, what would happen? Chances are the sun would still come up, the earth would still turn, right? Everyone would still be okay. It's not a life or death situation. Things would just shift a little bit. Would people get uncomfortable with not being able to rely on you in a role that they relied on you for so long? Yeah, it's going to get crunchy. It's going to get a little uncomfortable. Trust me, it'll change and it'll be for the better. So determine your needs first and ask yourself, what would happen if I didn't do that? Right? What would happen if someone else picked up the slack? So that goes back to getting perspective and checking your ego. You guys didn't know you were going to be swallowing such a huge pill today, did you? So number 3, you feel like all you do is give, and others just take. So this is what I was talking about with create teachable moments, okay? And allow for natural consequences. And I use my son a lot because he's 12. And so there's lots of teachable moments with a 12-year-old. My husband's 50. There's lots of teachable moments with him as well. So this certainly isn't restricted by age. If I'm going around all the time and I'm picking up dirty laundry off the floor, I've told those people, I've told my son, I've told my husband, I don't want to do this anymore, that they're going to have to do it, blah, 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 blah. And yet I continue to do it. The teachable moment that I'm teaching my son and my husband is that I'll just throw it on the floor. Mom will continue to pick it up, right? Yeah. But what if I said, I am more than happy to do the laundry in this house, provided that the towels that are on the floor end up in the hamper. And if they don't end up in the hamper, they won't end up in the drawers. It's going to be crunchy. It's going to take a little time and a little practice and you establishing that boundary and then standing firm in it. But I guarantee you, eventually those towels will end up in the laundry room because they're not going to want to run. A, they don't want to do it themselves, right? And B, they don't want to run around naked. So if you can give them a teachable moment, use that time instead of using that energy, getting frustrated and running around and saying, I always do this, I ask them not to, they respect me, having this argument with yourself, running around being resentful. What if you sat down and created a teachable moment? And it's the same thing with your clients. Okay. If you're continually getting phone calls from clients at 9 o'clock at night, if you're continually getting clients that will reach out to you via Messenger instead of on your Facebook group where you've asked them to reach out to you, how are you responding to those? If you're continually taking those phone calls from clients at 9 o'clock at night, well, they're going to continue calling you, right? That's like the scene in Pretty Woman when she says, why are you, stop calling, or he says, stop answering the phone. And she's like, well, stop calling me. Mm-hmm. Stop answering the phone. Expect and do the managing expectations, right? And that's number 2 on this. So you're going to manage expectations. You're going to sit down and say, my office hours are between 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Should you have an emergency after that, please leave me a voicemail and I'll get back to you at my next earliest moment. You didn't say, I'll get back to you in 15 minutes. You didn't say, I'll get back to you immediately. You said at my next earliest moment, because that allows you to listen to their message, determine if it really is an emergency, and 99% of things in life are not a true emergency, and get back to them. Again, you're modeling that behavior for them. Mm-hmm. You're modeling that behavior of what you are available for and what you are not available for. Okay, and these are the little tools in your tool belt down below. So the availability worksheet, I love this exercise. I take my clients through this exercise. It is so powerful. Take a piece of paper out or your computer, whatever works for you, and write down what you're available for anymore. This is what that looks like. I'm available for client meetings on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 3 different time slots. I'm available to do laundry on Sunday from 9 to 12. I'm available, you get the idea, right? And who you're available for. And this doesn't even have to be a name. This can just be the type of person. I'm available for people that raise me up. I'm not available for energy suckers. I'm not available for those clients who use me. I'm not available for those people who, when I've told them my expectations, continue to push those boundaries, right? I call this pruning the dead wood. So determine who you're available for and who you're not available for, and what you're available for and what you're not available for. And those are the things that you're going to put on your calendar. Those are the things and the people that you're going to allow to fill your life. Once you determine this, I guarantee you'll be able to spot that energy sucker a mile away, because you will have dealt with these kinds of people. You will realize that what your boundaries are, and you'll realize that, you know what, I've gone down that route before. I don't want that kind of person in my life. I'm not available for that anymore. It's such a simple exercise, but it's truly, truly powerful. And then have a family or a client meeting. So when I managed expectations with my family, we sat down and I said, I am in my office from 9 until 3 every single day. The curtain is closed. Unless there is blood, flood, or a fire, I'm not available. Okay. I'm managing expectations. I'll see you at noon. We can have lunch together. Should you have any questions, you can hold them till then, right? And of course, if there's a true emergency, blood, flood, fire, I'm available for that, right? But now we manage expectations. Now it's teaching my son to use his own creativity to come up with solutions for his own problems. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're doing for your clients or your spouse or your children. Mm. When you manage expectations and tell them, this is what I'm expecting on my end, right? This is what will happen if that boundary is overstepped. Then it's a lot easier, and you won't have that strife and that angst of, I've told them a million times, but you've told them a million times, but you have really managed those expectations. When you do this, then I will do this. When the laundry ends up in the laundry room, then I will do it. If not, I'm not going to do it.
This is empowering on many different levels, and also kind of scary.
Yes.
And very freeing, all at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's like, I love the availability worksheet. I think that is a super idea. I think it's a super idea for any of us that are on this call or that are going to be listening to the recording to do this for especially during this time of COVID, when most of us are stuck in the same four walls together, is where can you draw the line, and how can you still satisfy the callings that you have to grow your business, create a business, move forward in your life, all of those things. I think that's super. And managing expectations, I think that's a wonderful way to put it, because you are not finger pointing. There's no blame, shame, guilt. None of that is here. Love it.
Yeah. And I learned this through a program called Love and Logic, which is geared towards children, but it works very well with spouses and clients, I might say. And it talks about those natural expectations and those natural consequences, right? You're not saying, like you said, and you hit it beautifully, it's not about blame. It's not about me saying, I've told you that and now I'm angry. It's managing expectations. This is my expectation of myself and of you. And if you don't meet those expectations, it's not like there's a penalty, but this is what I'm going to be doing, right? You have control over you. I have control over me. And again, what you're also doing is you're modeling for other people that it's okay to have boundaries and stand in them, right? I'm teaching my 12-year-old son, it's okay to have a boundary. It's okay to say, my door is shut. I'm not to be interrupted unless there's blood, flood, or fire. Now he gets to understand and go through his life and understand it's okay for him to have boundaries. It's okay for him to tell clients no, right? So we're gonna touch about finding your ideal client later. Did you have something to say, Mary? I'm sorry.
No. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. So this is a quote by good old Ann Landers. So some people believe that holding on and hanging in there are signs of great strength. However, there are times when it takes much more strength to know when to let go and then to do it. Mm-hmm. So Mary, I think you really pointed out that this, and that's why I say give yourself grace. This is a practice, and you will find yourself, and still I've been doing this for years, and I still find when my son comes in, he's like, I've just got a quick thing to show you. I'm like, buddy, I don't see a flood, I don't see a flood, and I don't see fire. See you at noon, right? And he's like, and he goes off, and people they'll get angry, they'll pout, they'll stomp their feet, doesn't matter what age they are. They'll get angry because for so long, there's the expectation on their part that when I come in and do this, you immediately pay attention to me. And now that you're not doing that anymore, there's going to be a little pushback, right? You're mean, I hate you. There's going to be all that pushback because you've been doing it and now you're interrupting the pattern a little bit, right? But I promise you, it'll be worth the payoff, right? It'll be worth it in the end. Excuse me. So we're going to talk about now amplifying your confidence. And again, we're going through these at rapid pace. This is stuff that I work a lot, very in detail with my clients. We do a lot of role playing and scripts and that kind of thing. So we're just doing really top level surface because I really want you to understand that there's another way of doing things, right? There's another approach. So confidence is probably the number one thing that people come to me for is how do I get more confidence, right? So how this shows up, you don't feel confident or competent enough to do something, so you don't get started. You're concerned with what other people will think. This is huge. Thank you, social media, for amplifying this problem for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. You're concerned with what other people will think. And you don't get started because you're afraid of how it will end. So let's break these down. So number one, you don't feel confident or competent enough. And this is what I alluded to. Mary and I recorded like a 30-second commercial for this program, is that confidence is a skill set. It's not a characteristic. Confidence is a skill set. It's not a characteristic. So what I mean by that is a lot of people will say, well, we were just born with confidence, or it's easy for you to be confident because you've got X, Y, Z. I can tell you there are people that are really high performers, okay? That the only way they got confident enough to walk out on a stage or get up in front of people and talk is because they did it enough times, because it was a skill set. If you could take the emotion out of it and realize it's about actions, okay? Now, how do we do that? So I talk about the confidence competent loop. If you've ever heard this, I borrowed this from Brendan Burchard. I think he actually was the one that first talked about it. When you think about if you're a child on a bicycle and your parents start teaching you how to ride a bike, right? You don't sit there and overthink it. Well, what if this happens? And what if this happens? And oh my gosh, and oh, right? Because you're 5 and your parents didn't give you the opportunity. They plopped you on the bike. They pushed you on the back. You went, wah! Right? You ran into a tree. You quickly learned how you needed to course correct a little bit in order to not run into the tree the next time. And you got a little more competent, which made you a little more confident, right? Which made you go out and do it again, which means you got a little more competent, which made you feel like you wanted to go out. Do you understand the pattern here, the confidence, competent pattern? Okay. So when people say, and I know this is a big buzzword right now, but when people say feel the fear and do it anyways, there's gold in that. There really is. There's never going to be a time in your life when you're not going to get a little bit of anxiety. And here's the kicker, and I love this discovery. Your body doesn't know the difference between anxiety, right? Between nerves and excitement. Your brain is the one that attaches the meaning to that. So Bruce Springsteen, before he goes out on stage, he said he would get the butterflies in his stomach. He'd feel like he was going to throw up. His hands got clammy. And instead of thinking to himself, oh, I'm so nervous about this. And this is even now, this is years and years and decades later in his career. Instead of sitting and thinking, oh, I'm so nervous, he told his body that was excitement. I am so excited about this. We're going to get out there. We're going to rock this crowd, right? Because his body felt the same way either way. It was his mind that it was attaching that meaning to it. Oh, I'm so nervous. I'm so anxious. What if they laugh at me? What if, So I really want you to understand that when you have control over your thinking, there are very few things in life that are permanent or fatal. I'm pretty sure no one ever died from doing a Facebook Live. Maybe, but I've not heard of anybody that's died from doing a Facebook Live or getting hung up by a client. If you made an offer and they said no, I'm pretty sure no one's died from that. So if you can put it into perspective and take the emotion out of it, and that's a really challenging thing to do because we are humans with emotions. That's just how we were built, right? So I want to give you a little trick. If you could say, because I hear people all the time that say, I'm just not a confident person. Well, that's a big, broad statement. Were you confident enough to get dressed today? Were you confident enough to get in the car and go get groceries? Yeah. Were you confident enough to tell your children where they could find food in the kitchen? You get my point. Those things you're confident about. So when people make this blanket statement that they're not a confident person, that's not true. You're just not confident about fill in the blank and then add a yet at the end of the sentence. So this is what this looks like. I'm not confident enough about public speaking yet. What that does is it puts your brain to work thinking, oh, okay, you're confident about these areas. You're just not confident about this one thing. Or maybe it's 10 things. I don't know. Yet. So you get really dialed down into figuring out what it is you're not confident about. And by adding the word yet on there, you're also sending a signal to your brain that there's possibility that you will get confident about it.
And the reason it's that partnership with your thoughts and your brain. That's magic right there, that message.
Yeah. And the reason I say take the emotions out of this and that it truly is a skill set is because, again, that goes back to that confidence component loop. The more you do something, the more you'll feel confident in doing it, right? So again, pinpoint down what you're not confident about, get really, really, really specific about it, and realize that you are a human being with a finite amount of energy. That means a fixed amount of energy. No matter how many 5Ks you run, right? You only have so much energy. Ask yourself if you were going to take that energy and use it on worrying about what you're not confident about, or are you going to take that same amount of energy and actually get better at it?
Oh my gosh, Heather, seriously.
Yeah. So if you're not confident about public speaking, well, do something about it. If it's something that you want to continue doing in your life, get better at it. Go talk to the people that do it. Go ask them, go take classes, go watch TED Talks. Now in this age of the internet, there's nothing that you can't find out how to get more confident about online. There's just nothing that's not out there that's on YouTube or, Google, or just a Google search away of how do I get more confident about speaking? Use that energy for that, right? Instead of just saying, well, I'm not confident. And just, again, realize that it's not the absence of the fear, right? It's not resistance to fear. It's courage is the resistance to fear and the mastery of fear, not the absence of fear. That was Mark Twain. The fear is always going to be there, right? Tell your body it's not fear, tell your body it's excitement, and use that energy to go actually figure out how to do the thing, right? So just little teeny tiny snippets on how we can start getting into action. So you're concerned with what other people think. There's so many layers in this. So, you know, we've all gotten on social media and we're comparing our process, our messy, ridiculous process, to someone else's end result, right?
Mhm.
So, and I always tell people, check your comparitis is what I call it. Because when you look at somebody on Instagram or on Facebook and you're seeing them and their husband and their wife, and she's in her cute little bikini and they're laying on the beach in Belize, and you have no idea if they had to take that trip in order to save their marriage. You have no idea if they had to take that trip because she had to cheer up or get, you know, feel better because she had a miscarriage. Like, you have no idea what's going on in their lives. And yet you look at this picture of them together on the beach and you say, why isn't my life like that? What am I doing wrong? I'm a failure, right? And I like this statement, you will always be to fill in the blank. So when I first started getting on social media, I realized that I will always be, you know, you're going to be too fat, too short, too poor, too redheaded, too whatever it is, right? But there's always going to be somebody that's, you know, not as wealthy as you, financially or otherwise, not as healthy as you, the reason I bring that up is because there's nothing I can do about the fact that I wasn't born blonde with legs up to my neck, right? I can't change that. And I don't want to change that. So I take, again, that finite amount of energy and I work on what I can control. And I forget the rest. I put on my little blinders, right? And I get to work. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have taken 14,000 courses because they, through the process of osmosis, they want to look like the person that's giving those courses, right? Because she films it from this house that's amazing, and the kids are running around in the background and there's a rose garden and all this. Put the blinders on and stop with the comparitis. You don't know what their circumstances are, right? Really, really, really big challenge to do with social media because people don't put out their worst sides, right? Yeah. They don't put out the fact that there's, you know, like it's 3:00 in the afternoon. Have I brushed my teeth yet today? My kids have been wearing pajamas for 6 days straight, right? They don't put that out there. Now they're getting a little bit better about that to let people see the authenticity in their lives. But that's a really big challenge. So get off the internet, get off social media, right? And again, control what you can. And I tell people to mind your business and stay in your lane. When you're constantly focused on, you know, looking over your shoulder or looking on social media at what other people are doing with their lives, again, you're wasting that energy. If you see something online that you appreciate, oh, this woman made $7 million. Great, take that energy that you're sitting there using, wasting on what you don't have, and get to work to get that $7 million if that's what you're after. If you're after, you know, toned thighs, or you want more clients, or control what you can and drop the rest, right? Stay in your lane. And number 3, stop shoulding all over yourself, right? We've all done this, the should monster. I should be doing this, I should be doing that, right? Society is fickle. And the reason I say that is because the reason we're telling ourselves I should be is because we're trying to live up to an expectation that may have been set by society or a spouse or a friend or whoever, a magazine or whatever. But the minute you meet that line, the line changes. So if you're constantly tying your self-worth to someone else's expectation, you will always be disappointed. Let me say that again. If you're constantly tying your self-worth to someone else's expectations, you will always be disappointed. That's a tough pill to swallow.
That's huge. That is a very tough pill to swallow. Yeah.
And there's some big things in here to unpack. And again, we're going through these at breakneck speed. I tell people they should lift up their should rocks. When you find yourself saying, I should be doing this, investigate what that means. Lift up that rock and look what's underneath it. Why should I be doing this? Why am I having this feeling that I should be doing this? Where does this come from? Is this coming from a parent that told me since the age of 4 that I'd never amount to anything? Is this coming from me spending too much time on social media? and feeling that shouldness. Where is that coming from? And start exploring that a little bit. And ask yourself, and this is probably the most powerful statement I use personally, is that a belief or is that a fact? Is that a belief or is that a fact? So when you start asking yourself, right, this goes back to those little stories, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But when you start talking about those stories that you're keeping in your head are determining what you will and won't do in the future, right? And so this is what we're going to talk about. And I love this slide. I love this slide. So you don't get started because you're afraid of how it will end, okay? We don't have a relationship, we don't leave a relationship. We don't say what we mean. We don't get up in front of a room. We don't call a client. We don't start a business because of how we think it's going to end. So let me give you a story. I had a roommate in college and we had a party, and I said to her, I think I'm going to ask out the guy across the street. He's kind of cute. And her response was, well, that'll be embarrassing when it doesn't work out.
Oh.
So I hadn't even asked this guy out yet. She had me through the coffee date, through a dinner date, through a relationship, through the end of the relationship, which apparently ended badly because now it's awkward between us. I hadn't even asked the guy out yet, but because she was afraid of the outcome, because of her stories, she was projecting that on me, right? But how ridiculous does that sound? Like, what? But how many times do we do that in the course of a day? I'm not going to pick up the phone and call a client because they're going to think I'm pushy. They're going to hang up on me. I'm going to get a bad reputation, right? Is that a belief or is that a fact? Huge difference. And I have that on a Post-it note on my computer. Is that a belief or is that a fact?
Amen.
This will help you release the stories, okay? And let go of the outcome. Letting go of the outcome was something that I did in my life, and it completely, and I know that people say game changer and life changer. It truly was a life changer for me to let go of the outcome. I have a plan. I have an intent. I'm not flying blindly, but whatever happens, happens. That's taking the emotions out of things, right? And getting into action and getting rid of the emotion. I pick up the phone. If they say yes, that's great. If they say no, that's great. I just move on to the next person. If they say yes, that's great. If they say no, that's great. Right? If I have a conversation with my husband that's a little uncomfortable, right? At least now at the end of the conversation, I have more information as to how we can proceed. Let go of the outcome. We all have done that, especially with spouses. Well, I'm not going to say this because he's going to say that, and then we're going to end up in a big fight. Who are you talking to? He's not even in the room when we're having these conversations with people, right? So really start thinking about that. When you are meeting up with resistance, talk to the fear. Go with that 7 layers of why. Why are you having resistance to this? Well, I'm afraid that they're going to think I'm pushy. Why do you think they're going to think you're pushy? Are you doing something that is going to make them think that? Well, right. So start unpeeling that, right? Peel back the layers of the onion and start asking yourself, why? What's the really, really, really at the heart of this as to why I'm having resistance? And is it belief or is it a fact? If it's a story that you're hanging on to, that your 6th grade PE teacher told you you'd amount to nothing, is that a belief or a fact? Right? It's a belief. And it was something that he told you when you were in 6th grade. And now everything in your life, you use that as a filter for everything in your life. And you just don't realize you're doing it yet because you haven't unpacked that. So take a little time and unpack and lift up those should rocks and unpack why you're having resistance to things. Okay, your fear is 100% dependent on your survival, on you for survival. I love that quote. Your fear is 100% dependent on you for survival. That's another powerful choice. Designing your day. Designing your day. I talk to a lot of people that think, well, I don't like to have a really rigid schedule. I like to be a little bit more free. Okay, I'm not saying that you need to schedule bathroom breaks during the day, but we're going to talk a little bit about why it's crucial to have a daily routine. Okay, and how this shows up. When you don't have a daily routine, your mind feels like a snow globe all the time. Okay, you walk into your office, you don't know where to get started. The siren's call of laundry is calling you. And life is just at you like this, right? You never reach your dreams and goals. You make those goals in January. December rolls around. You're just crossing off the date and putting it on your calendar for next year. I'll try it again next year, right? The devil is in the details. The devil is in the daily details. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. You don't say in January, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. And by December, you've lost 50 pounds, but you haven't done anything in between. because you haven't scheduled it, right? Okay. And then you never feel like doing anything. And this goes back to motivation and momentum. We're going to talk about that as well. So number one, your mind feels like a snow globe. Ask yourself what's important right here, right now. I call this reverse engineering. So I have a Post-it note that's on my computer and I look at it every single day. It has 3 things on it. Number one, what is my money maker this month?
Mhm.
Number 2, how am I calling people into that? Meaning, am I sending emails? Am I doing a Facebook Live? Am I reaching out one-on-one? How am I calling people into that? And number 3, what are the actions I need to take in order to accomplish that money maker? So number 1, what's my money maker? Number 2, how am I calling people into that? And number 3, what are the actions I need to take? And that's it. That's all I focus on.
Right.
There's a difference between being busy and productive, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Okay. So ask yourself what's important right here, right now. And then reverse engineer it. Okay. If I want to hit that $7 million by or $70,000 or $7,000 by the end of the year, what actions am I going to need to take the other 12 months to get into that? And do those things. Because when you come into your office and you're looking at your schedule and it's full of, I've got to do this and I've got to do this, those are to-dos, right? And 90% of those to-dos aren't helping you reach your goal. They're keeping you stuck because you're afraid to go after your goal, right? Okay. And dive into the resistance. Again, ask yourself, this is the 7 layers of why. Ask yourself why you're work resistant. Why are you going for the things like going to do the laundry as opposed to sitting there and doing the tough work? Sitting there and doing the work that you chose, that you said to the universe that you wanted to do. Okay, ask yourself those questions. And prune the dead wood. And I talked a little bit about this in terms of friends, but prune the dead wood. Watch how you use your energy. And this goes back to the calendar clearing exercise. Okay, it took me a long time, not a long time, couple months, but I would physically feel the pull. I'd start into something like a Facebook post. And halfway into the Facebook post, I'd think, oh, I should go put that laundry in. What? No, like, well, you need to sit down and work on something. But I physically feel that pull to go because I was resisting the work, right? And I'd have to physically say to myself, stop, refocus. Again, all of these things are just going to take a little challenge or a little time and a little patience. Be graceful with yourself. This is big, important work. This is awesome. And I tell you, it will truly, truly pay off at the end. So you never reach your dreams and goals, right? You don't change your dream. You just change your deadline. Okay.
Oh.
You don't change your dream. You just change the deadline, right? So fill in the rocks first, then the pebbles, then the sand. There's a great video you can watch on YouTube about this. And it was a professor and he was teaching his college students. He had a glass vase and he put in a bunch of rocks, big rocks. And he said, is this full? And they said, oh yeah, that's full. It's full. You can't fit anything else in there. Right. And then he poured pebbles into it and these little pebbles settled in around the big rocks. And he said, is it full now? And they said, well, yeah, now it's full. Right. Now the vase is full. And then he poured sand in and the sand filled in all the crevices that were left over. And he said, is it full now? And they said, yeah, it's full. And he said, yeah, you're right. It is full now. Those rocks are you, me, you, us. Those rocks are what you're going after. Those dreams and those goals, those are what needs to go on your calendar first. Right? Not at the end of the day, not when you have time, not when everybody else's needs have been taken care of first. So when you're looking at your calendar and you're going through that calendar clearing exercise, I highly encourage you to fill in the rocks first, then the pebbles, which are other people's needs, right? And then the sand, whatever that looks like for you, and chunk it down, okay? When you're looking at what you need to do to lose 50 pounds by the end of December, or whatever time frame you've set up for yourself, ask yourself what needs to happen every single day in order for me to get towards that goal. Those are the rocks, right? And here's what this does. I know a lot of people are very resistant to putting everything down to, like hourly chunks of their time, but here's what this allows your brain to do. When you're sitting at your office on a Tuesday afternoon and you're working on something and you think, you know what, I really should be working out right now. And then you think, oh, wait a minute. I've got that on my calendar, already scheduled out for Thursdays at noon. Okay. That allows your brain to take a break and to realize right here, right now, this is what I've scheduled in my schedule for right now. I've already scheduled when I'm going to do the laundry. I've already scheduled the quality time with my family. I've already scheduled when I'm going to be on the treadmill. It allows your brain to free up and focus and realize that you've got all those things scheduled. But if you walk into your office every day and you don't have anything on your schedule, that's why I get the snow globe of I have no idea when I'm going to do this all. I don't have time for anything. Forget it. I'll just cross off the deadline and change my goal till next year. Does that make sense? Is this all resonating?
This, for me, this totally makes sense. And actually, when I started using my calendar religiously, I actually ended up feeling more abundant. Like I had actually more time.
Yeah. And I promise you that when you get rid of those, that when you prune that dead wood of things that no longer serve you, you'll all of a sudden find you have time for yourself. And it's very liberating, very freeing. It's awesome. It's awesome. So number 3, you never feel like doing anything, right? I'll do it when I feel like it. Here's the reality. You're never going to feel like leaping out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning like a gazelle to go for a run. You're just not going to feel that, right? So you need to schedule your motivation. Maya Angelou did this, the famous writer. She wouldn't just sit and write when she felt like it. She had a hotel room booked every day, and she wouldn't go there to sleep. She would go there to write. So she knew at 2:30 every afternoon, she would sit and work on her book or whatever she was working on. She scheduled her motivation. She didn't wait for it to come, right? And the only place that motivation comes before movement is in the dictionary. The only place where motivation comes before movement. You have to get into the action and then you'll feel like it, right? You have to, we've become this culture of people that want to visualize and meditate and manifest, and which is great. I'm into all of those. But without the action, there is no actualization.
Absolutely.
It has to be a layer effect, right? And first step's always the hardest. So I call it WTA, what's the alternative? If you want to work out and you're sitting on the couch, and you're like, I really should get up, right? And go work out. What's the alternative if you don't? If you don't work out, you're probably going to keep that extra weight on you. You're not going to feel good. Are you cool with that? Then no, then get up off the couch. If you're cool with that, then stop putting it on your list of things to do and use that energy for something else and drop that goal. If you're not willing to work for it, yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. And that goes back to the shoulds, right? That goes back to, I should be doing this. Well, should you? Do you really want to do it? If not, if it's something that you saw in a magazine and you feel like you should look like that, but you don't really want to put in the effort to do that, stop wasting energy on parking it on your calendar and thinking that you're going to do it. Either do it or don't do it, right? And I know that there's a lot to unpack in there. It just takes practice. And then the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I love this. Mel Robbins, who's an author, came up with this idea. She was a severe alcoholic. They were in debt. They were in fear of losing their house. And she sat and she's like, every single day I want to get up and I want to take the kids to school and I can't seem to manage to do that. So she was watching a rocket launch and they said 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and the rocket launched. She said, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. And so every morning when she would get out of bed, instead of hitting her snooze 9 times, she said, because she counted, she said 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and she launched. She got out of bed. And she didn't know it at the time, but there's a brain psychology behind this. When you hesitate, your brain thinks something's wrong. When you're going to get on the phone with a client and you hesitate, your brain goes to work to stop you because it's like, wait a minute, why are you hesitating? You didn't hesitate when you put your pants on this morning. You didn't hesitate when you brushed your teeth. But why are you hesitating now that we're getting on the phone with a client? Something's wrong here. Danger, danger, don't do it. But
Ladies,
by you saying,
I want you, Heather, I've got to say something. Ladies, this is big right here. This is huge. Quotable moment, Twitter moment, whatever. Yeah. Your brain is always listening.
Oh yeah. And your brain's not your friend. Your brain is going to work. The only thing your brain cares about is keeping you safe. That's it. That's it. So it's going to do everything in its power to keep you safe. Meaning, don't go out there, it's cold, don't go for a run. Don't get on the call with that client, they're gonna think you're pushy. Don't have that talk with your husband. Who do you think you are to ask for rights, right? Your brain wants to keep you safe and in the status quo. Huge psychology in that. So this is the difference between being productive and busy. I'm so busy all the time, right? Are you productive or busy? This is the difference. Productive is focused, busy is frantic. Okay, and you can read through those or take a screenshot, but you get the idea. There's a big difference between being productive and being busy. Okay, so finding your ideal client, we're going to whip through this. This is so, so good. So how this shows up when you're not working with your ideal client, you resent the clients you work with. You aren't happy doing. We all have, and it's okay to fire a client, FYI. You aren't happy doing the work you do, and you feel like your clients at work own you. Okay, whoops. So you resent the clients you work with. This is a dirty little secret nobody wants to admit, but there are clients you resent working with. Okay, determine who you want to work with first. Start how you want to finish. Meaning, don't start with a client just because there are no other clients for you to work with. Okay, because if you start that direction, you will end that direction. I remember a lot of times when my husband and I were first married and someone said, oh, you don't do that. And I said, no, because I don't want to start that, because I don't want to do that for the next 40 years of my relationship, right? Don't start unless that's how you want to continue. Okay, determine who you're going to work with. Determine their pain points, their goals, their challenges, their objections. And I promise you, when you do, you'll attract more. Okay, so your little tools in your tool belt are going to look like this. You're going to create a client avatar. And I resisted this for a long time because I thought, I know who I work with. I work with female entrepreneurs. Okay, female entrepreneurs is this big, right? And you can't see my arms. There it is, this big. Okay, I was going much bigger, but you can't see that. Female entrepreneurs is this big. Okay, but you have to niche down from that. Again, this goes back to what you are and what you aren't available for. So now I know you need to know, and you could do a worksheet. There's plenty of worksheets online how to figure this out, but this includes their age. 18 to 88 is not a demographic. That is not a demographic. The reason is because there's a lot of things that an 18-year-old deals with that an 88-year-old does not deal with, okay? So for you to niche it down and get really specific about who your client is, I promise will help you, okay? So you need to figure out their age. You need to figure out their spending habits. What stores do they spend money at, right? Who are they hanging out with? Are they married? Are they single? What do they do in their spare time? Okay, what are their challenges? What are their pain points? What are their goals? What are their objections? Knowing all of those things will also help you create your content and your messaging so you know how to reach those people and you know how to offer solutions for those people. Okay. Magic. So when you go for the third line, which is niche is reach and broad is broke. A lot of times, especially when we first get started, we want to work with anybody. I'll work with anybody, which is why we say, oh, I work from women from 18 to 88. And whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're a stay-at-home mom or whether you're single or whether you're married or whether, you know, because we have this mentality that if we don't accept that client, there aren't going to be any other clients, right? And once I get one client, the others will come, right? The others will come, but they'll be the wrong clients for you. Then you'll resent working with them. Okay, you have to have an abundance mentality versus a scarcity mentality. Okay, and niching down like that, I promise you, there are 7 billion people on the planet. I imagine you'll get a handful to work with that will be your ideal client and someone you're excited to work with. Okay, so number 2, you aren't happy doing the work you do. Determine what you want to do, not what you think people will pay for, what you should do. I was told very early on, oh, you should teach people how to dress and style. It's like, you know what, I'm good at that, but I don't want to do that for a living. That's not, determine what you want to do, not what you think people will pay for or what you should do. Okay, really get very, very specific on it. Because again, out of 7 billion people, I promise you there's somebody that's willing to pay for that. And then do you know who the authentic you is, right? And this goes back to determining your core values. And I spend a lot of time with my clients talking about that, okay? Create a values and desires worksheet. That'll figure out who you want to work with and what you want to do and things that make you happy. And then don't do the rest of the stuff. I know this sounds very simplistic, but that's what it boils down to. You feel like your clients and your work own you. Again, this goes back to the managing expectations right up front. Create an onboarding document, which means these are my expectations of you. If you tell people it's a 4-month program and they're calling you in month 6 saying, well, I didn't get a time in those 4 months. Can we? No, it was a 4-month contract. You have up until 4 months to finish it. If you didn't, then we'll need to look at re-upping your contract, right? You're also modeling for them that it's okay to have boundaries and expectations, right? Get really specific. This cuts down on having any kind of embarrassment later on. Well, I didn't know that. Well, yeah, if you didn't tell them, then they didn't know that. And now you're in a kind of a pickle, right? So if you manage expectations right up front, this really helps. Number 2, determine what your days, weeks, months, years, and what your life looks like. Okay, what you want that to look like now. This goes back to the don't start it unless that's the way you want it to look. Establish your boundaries and maintain them. I don't take client calls after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, etc. We talked a little bit about those. Okay, so this is my favorite boundary quote. The only people who will have a problem with you establishing boundaries are the people who benefited from you not having any in the first place.
Uh-huh.
That has got to be one of my favorite quotes. I have a lot of quotes. I'm kind of a quote queen. So I know we whipped through that at breakneck speed. Today you discovered how to stop feeling guilty for not being able to do it all, how to create bulletproof confidence no matter what, how crucial your daily routine is, and how to identify your ideal client. We did a really, really high level of all of these. So I wanted to ask you, what if you could amplify your voice and your value and your action and show up boldly in your life and business unapologetically? What would that feel like for you? And what if you could live a life by design and not default, a life that amplifies you? I feel amazing. So I wanted to give you a gift as part of being Mary's audience. This is called the How to Be Twice as Productive in Half the Time guide. This is the Amplify Your Productivity guide. It's a $47 value. I want to give it to you guys for free. And to find that, and then also reach out to me and find out if there's any way we can, anything that you've got going on that we can work through, or any questions that you have, and we'll do a brief session for questions. And I apologize, I went over a little bit today, but this is the best way to reach out to me. If you go to Facebook, Bold Beyond Belief, if you type message, you click the message button, these little things will pop up. You can either grab the productivity guide, you can chat with me, or you can join the Facebook group, or do all 3. So that's the best way to reach out to me there. And then I just want to leave you with this quote: the longer you make decisions based on where you are instead of where you want to go, the longer you stay stuck, right? So my wish for you is whether we were together or not, surround yourself with people who will raise you up, fill you with belief, and help you unlock your power, because it's in there, and I totally believe in you guys. So, I've been talking a million miles a minute. Let's hear what you ladies have to say. I'm going to stop the share on here. Let's see if we have any questions.
That was super. Does anybody have any questions or need Heather to clarify something, want her to go deeper on something? Like,
Can we meet live?
What did you say, Kirsten?
Can we meet live?
Can we meet live? One of these days, the answer to that will be yes.
Yeah. I have a little question for Heather.
Yes.
Heather, thank you very much. It's been really, really, I'm really thrilled, actually. And I just have a tiny little question that I've been sitting on for quite some time. It's nothing to do with my business, but talking about the calendar, and that you put stuff in when the stuff that you want to do and the stuff that you don't want to do. So I have a reoccurring appointment in my calendar every Monday morning at 8 o'clock that says banking. And every morning at 8 o'clock, I ignore it. So I pay a lot of money because I don't do the transfers, I don't pay my money on time and stuff. So I've had this issue for years, and I haven't been able to break through this. It's just ridiculous. I just ignore.
So by banking, do you mean like you're going to sit down and pay bills and those kinds of things?
Exactly. And you have a look at my finances. Where am I with all of? I keep on ignoring. I just don't do it. So I wonder, how can if I don't do this, how I'm gonna handle the rest of my calendar? And this is a big
Sure.
one.
That's a great question, and it is. And my question would be, what's the resistance, right? Lift up those rocks is to find out what the resistance is about. Is it the resistance that maybe you don't feel like you're making enough money, or that you've got more month or more bills than you've got money, so you don't want to take a really honest look at that financial picture, to be reminded once again that you are not where you want to be financially? Is that kind of where that's coming from, you think?
It could be because I was way up and then I quit my job some time back, and I thought I'll work it out. So it's been going down and down and down, and every month there's a resistance. I don't want to look at it. There's enough there, but I just don't want to look at it getting less instead of getting more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that makes complete sense. Absolutely. So is there have you figured out like what's the alternative of not doing that? If not looking at that every Monday at 8 o'clock is causing you frustration, what would be the alternative of that? Looking at that, still having the frustration, but now at least you know the information and you can make your decisions or your action plan based on those decisions. Do you have something in place so you are tracking your numbers and knowing how many clients you need to get on a monthly basis in order to meet that target?
I'm not too worried about that. I just, this is this very simple thing for me that I just don't get a grip on. I know I lose money by not paying the bills on time every month, and I just can't do it. Maybe we have a chat on this on Facebook. I look you up because I wanted to give room for some others, but there's a great idea with a calendar, but this is just a thing I plug in and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. My thought there is that there's something more going on there, or it's something that maybe that you can outsource to a VA if it's nothing but accounting, right? Do you have an accountant on board or those kinds of things? But yeah, let's chit chat about flying. Absolutely, I'd love to. You're welcome.
Anybody else? Comments, questions? Sinead, go ahead. Oh, you got to turn your microphone on.
You're muted.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I'm sorry. I'm not used to
Teresa,
technology.
I'll come up to you next.
Hi, Heather. Thank you very much. It was really interesting. And everybody else, hello again. I am planning to start a business, and I suppose I'm trying to figure out what small steps do I do now that will help me achieve that. I have a sort of almost like a goal list of what I'm trying. Like each week I try to achieve something small, be it looking at my demographic, looking at what I want to get from each week and what I want moving forward. So I suppose, do you have any help? I suppose like little steps that will help for big steps in the future.
Sure. So I would suggest reverse engineering. So if you've looked at your larger goal, 15 clients, $80,000, whatever that big goal is for you, and then reverse engineer that and really be honest with you or be honest with yourself. For example, if you're looking to get a certain amount of clients, ask your client or ask yourself, if I don't, if I don't have a website that's got all my information on it and that's really, 12 pages and really finessed and really beautiful, is that going to make a difference, or can I do without the website right now? Right? Can I reach out to people one-on-one on Facebook? If I don't have a piece of paper, collateral, or a brochure or anything, is that keeping me back from meeting up with clients? No, right? So what are the things, what's your big goal that you're working towards right now, or at least in the next quarter?
What I'm hoping to do is start weekend workshops for new parents.
Okay.
I've been a nanny, a postpartum doula. I'm very interested in, I suppose, educating children and parents. So what I'm trying to do is maybe start, and I've spoken to Mary about this before, is in the 4th trimester, which I know from being a nanny that a lot of parents are not prepared for that aspect, and nobody gives them any advice. They send them home from the hospital with a baby and they're like, I don't know what to do with this baby. They're scared, they're nervous. I want to sort of teach them to be confident in themselves through me, but I don't want to be condescending because I don't have children of my own. So I don't want to come off as being preachy. I want to come off as guidance and insight to them where they listen to me, but not necessarily that, and they're willing to pay me also for this service.
Yep. So exactly what you just said. I want to teach people about the 4th trimester. I want to, let them figure out, teach them what the expectations are there, teach them that they're not alone, teach them that all of that get on a Facebook live and just
Mhm.
say exactly that. Hey guys, I'm starting this masterclass. It's next Saturday at 9:00. I'd love for you to join me. We're going to talk about this and that, and all that passion that you just came across with. That's all you need, right? You don't need the fancy website. You don't need the documents or the paperwork that goes beyond that. Just to make that personal connection with people and say, this is what I'm working on. I'd love for you to join me. So what is it all the little stuff that you said that, every week you're trying to figure out, what is that
So
you're
I
working on?
suppose now
Is that
currently what
keeping
I'm
you from getting on?
not really. So I'm actually stuck in Ireland at the moment, obviously due to COVID, and this is not where I thought I was going to be, and it's not where I want to be. So I'm in that sort of, I think, almost like a holding period where I'm trying to move forward as much as I can, but I can't because people in Ireland won't pay for this service. And so I don't want to put all the time and effort into it if there's no, I suppose, if there's no achievement at the end of it, and I don't want to waste my time doing it. So as I said, right now I'm doing different courses online that are about newborns, children, engaging with parents. And I'm sort of trying to get it's not necessarily a checklist of things, but it's just trying to educate myself more so that I can educate parents then.
Yeah, you're just doing a little market research, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when you say that people won't pay for it in Ireland, is there a reason why you can't just do this all online?
I think sometimes it's nice to be able to go into, I'm hoping obviously pre-COVID that we will, or post-COVID, we'll be able to go into, what I'm hoping to do is base myself in Europe and then once every 6 to 8 weeks, go to a different city. I do find if I'm in a city that has expats in it, that people are going to be more inclined. They've got more money. They're away from family and friends. That's kind of where my niche is at the moment. That's what I'm sort of seeing. So trying to figure out how I market myself to those people. Because I do think a lot of it is like sort of teaching them how to hold a baby correctly. I think you need to sort of be able in person, like swaddling them, bathing them, those sort of things you need to see hands-on, I believe, in my aspect.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So are you, I don't know that we're going to go back to in person anytime soon, right?
Yes,
so are you, so are you, in the vein of doing your market research, are you in Facebook groups or any type of social media where your clients are? Like, I'm sure there's 5 billion different new parent resources or new parent groups.
I'm in like mothers groups, nanny groups. I've reached out to people that I know that have set up their own sort of business like this, similar to it, like that are doulas. Because they're also, everybody now is on this, like they're posting Instagram lives and sort of asking them, how did you start off and where did you start off? I do have, I know a lot of people, I've lived in the States, and so I know a lot of people that I can contact and get the information from. So it's just sort of figuring out where do I market myself then, just because obviously it's something I feel that needs to be, some of it needs to be in person.
Yeah, and I would just, like I said, where those people are, you obviously know where your demographic is, and just shoot them, do a little Facebook Live or just even a little text. You don't even have to do Facebook Live. This is something I'm thinking about putting together. Would you guys be interested? Do you think that there's a need for that? And I promise you'll get people back like, oh, me, absolutely. Because there's so many things that we do online right now. And I understand the need to want to do that in person. But to at least gain the interest or get to take a little temperature or something, I think would be really helpful. And again, not get stuck in the minutia. If those things are, what if you put yourself in a perspective of, we're not going to go back to in person for another 6 to 8 months, then what? You're certainly not going to put your business on hold for 6 to 8 months. So figuring out and talking to those other people, listen, because we can't do this in person, how are you guys doing this? How are you guys coping with this? And I promise you that if you put together a little post on Facebook about, I'm thinking about putting this together, what do you guys think? You'll get a flood of feedback back on that. It'll kind of, give you an idea of where to go next.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, there's go. So, yeah, absolutely. And Rosemary gave you a little suggestion there too.
I just seen that now as well. Yeah, I'm just going to write that down then as well. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, Rosemary. All right, I'll mute myself again.
Teresa, did you figure out how to unmute your phone? It looks like it.
Oh no.
Can't hear you. Can you type it in the chat? What your question is? Nope, still can't hear you. Oh, did she take off? Oh no, there she is. She's back on. She's got her rock photo up. Well, hopefully she'll type it in the chat, or she can reach out to me on Facebook. Oh, there she is. I love technology.
I know, right? That love-hate relationship in technology. While Teresa is typing that out, does anybody else have a question or a comment for Heather? So Heather can be reached again. I'm just going to say on Facebook, check her out on Facebook at Bold Beyond Belief. Mary, can you unmute me? Okay. You're not muted. Do you see that, Sinead, from Stacy?
Look at that.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm
thanks,
gonna
Heather.
add in, yeah, that's awesome to hear Sinead's story, because I'm doing something, I want to do something similar. So let's connect. I wrote it in the chat, but I think for your presentation was great. It was wonderful. And I have a 13-year-old, so I can connect to what you were saying on a lot of these things. But my aha moment was when you were talking about scheduling the calendar and removing that's not serving you, and how you connected ego. And immediately I'm already formulating in my head, I'm on this committee, I'm volunteering here, I'm doing these services, and this is not helping me. And I've been putting a lot of reasons why I cannot grow my business, or a lot of reasons I cannot do it. And I'm taking the limitations off after hearing you. I think I'm doing a lot of self-sabotage. Yeah.
Hallelujah.
The word. Yeah.
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 And we all do, right? And we all think, well, I'm very, very important. They can't possibly manage without me. Trust me, they will, right? And again, that ties back to, I don't feel like I've got validation unless I'm serving someone else, right? We'll figure out where you really want to serve people in your business or whatever that is for you, and serve them there. But time spent in one area is time taken away from another area. You can't be everything all at once. You're not a pizza, you're not a taco, right? And you shouldn't have to be. Stay in your zones of genius and figure out where you want to be focusing your effort, because this is your life, right? You're holding the pen. No one's going to come to you and say, you seem like you're really busy, so we're going to take this off your plate. No, they're going to look at you and go, don't leave. We can't do it without you. And you're like, you can manage. I have faith in you. You'll be just fine. So good for you. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I loved your idea too, of that somebody else can step in and bring some new energy to it. And I think, sometimes like even letting go of old clothes and things, I used to have a really hard time with it. And somebody said, if you give it's somebody else will have a purpose, and they can't maybe afford what you had. And then it can move forward. And I just love that idea. Then I'm able to let go of that. And so I'm seeing myself, I need to let go in other areas.
Yeah.
Professional.
And that comes from that abundance mentality, right? Because you don't want to let something go, because what if you don't have something to replace it? And if you can think of it like sitting in the bathtub, right? You put the water in the bathtub, you put the plug in, you just sit there, that water becomes stagnant after a while. But if you open up the drain and you allow things to drain out, and then you turn on the spigot at the same time, and you've got just as much flowing in as you do flowing out, right? You keep that nice, lovely balance, and the water's fresh all the time, as opposed to that stagnant water, because you haven't let anything out. You can't let anything in if you don't let go of some stuff. So I love that you came to that realization. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm definitely going to check you out after this. So thank you for your time today. I think it was very helpful. Thank you.
Good. And I put in the link in the chat box so you guys can grab that free productivity guide. There's no strings attached, nothing. You don't have to do anything. Just click on it and grab it. And you can reach out to me there if you have any other questions too. So awesome.
Let's see. I think there's been stuff going on in the chat. Let me have a look. Okay, where's Teresa? What do client objections look like?
What do client objections look like? Well, so are you asking kind of like how they show up? A lot of people, I'm assuming that's what you mean. A lot of people will say that's too expensive, right? So we end up discounting our services. Or I don't necessarily have time for this, or anything that a client objection comes up with is on the client, really. that would be my statement. If you set a price in your program, it's $10,000 a year, it's $20 a year, whatever that is, it's $18 for this masterclass, whatever that is, you determine what the value is, and that's your price. I find I talk to so many people that will establish their pricing, and then they get a client that gives them a sad story, so they discount their pricing or they give it away for free, which is fine. If you are in a philanthropic adventure and you're a nonprofit, that's wonderful. But if you're in the business to make money so you can bless other people or whatever that looks like for you, stop giving away your services. Don't do that, right? And also, that goes back to the managing expectations and the building those boundaries. So I'm assuming, and Mary, maybe you could shed some light on this. If that's what she's talking about, what do client objections look like? Usually they show up like, I don't have the money for this. I don't have the time for this. My husband won't let me. I don't see, I've gone through a million other courses. I don't see how this one's going to be different. Are those kinds of the things you're talking about, Teresa? Time. I don't have time for this. I'm assuming that's okay. All right. So if a client doesn't have time for this, first of all, if you have to drag someone to a program or to sign up with you, you're going to have to drag them through the program. So I want you to keep that in mind. If you're being met with a client, and there's certainly objections that they have that warrant a discussion around this. When someone says, I just don't have time for this, then my question to them would be, well, if this is something that is a goal of yours, or this is something that you really want to change in your life, then you really need the program. We really, if it's time management or something that you're teaching there, but if you need to make the time for it, right? You need to be the rock. Those need to be your rocks that you put in your calendar to make the time for it. And I would ask them and encourage them to look at their calendar and look where they're really spending their time. And if they have a big goal, are those things where they're spending their time contributing to that goal, right? Because here's the thing, find a way, make a way, right? We all say we don't have $300, but then we find ourselves at Target and we've spent $300, right? We say we don't have time for something, but then 2 hours later, we're still knee deep in kitten videos, right? The average person spends 5 hours a day on their phone. People have time. So when clients come to me with client objections like that, first of all, I try to figure out what's behind that. Right. And then second of all, again, if I have to drag them to a program, I'm going to have to drag them through the program. I'm not interested.
Not worth it.
It's not, that goes back to the abundance, because I want to find those people that are like ready to go. I will do whatever it takes to be a part of this. I will move mountains. I will book the time out. I will cancel other things. I will, those are the clients that you want to work with, right?
Yes. Those are the clients that you want to work with. Yes.
And there's a bunch of them. Again, 7 billion people on the planet. There's probably somebody that's just aching to work with you.
Client avatar.
Yes. Yeah. Aw, hi, Pepper.
All right, ladies, anybody else before we wrap this up? Again, this is all being recorded. It will be in your inbox on Monday. Thank you for being so participative, because the people that were not able to be online with us live, it makes them feel like they're in the room with us when everybody else is participating. So I appreciate you showing up and getting involved in what Heather had to present to us, because I know that I got some great nuggets out of it, and I'm happy that that you came into my life and showed up, Heather. The universe, there's no coincidences here. So Heather showed up at just the right time. I'm happy that everybody was here to show up and hear what Heather had to say. So Heather, thank you so much. Again, check Heather out on Facebook, Bold Beyond Belief. go ahead and message her so that you can hit that message button so that you can download that workbook, because I know I did, and it was fabulous. So well, so much, so many gems in there, just like this workshop. And make sure to follow up, listen to the recording, the bits and pieces that you need to go over again. And again, feel free to reach out to Heather and ask her for more. That's why she's here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me, and thank you so much to Mary for hosting this and for bringing us all together. Though I really appreciate it.
Super. My absolute pleasure. Ladies, thank you so much for showing up on this Saturday morning for some of you, evening for others. Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure to have you in the room with me. And for Heather, thank you, ladies. And we will see you again.
Thank you.
Let's end it with,
That's
may
allowed.
I always see the truth. May I always speak the truth. May I always feel the truth. I love you so much. Namaste.
Bye, guys. Thank
Ladies.
you.